Hi everyone, this is Rohit from Lifestyle Mastery, and I'm excited to have Thomas Ryan, who's the CEO and founder of Bigley Sales, a startup transforming the sales landscape. Bigley Sales has helped companies boost marketing and sales with the AI-powered solutions. Welcome to the show, Thomas.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. So Thomas, we'll talk about Bigley Sales, but how did you get your start in startups and sales? And obviously, how did that lead to building Bigley Sales?
So my last business, I was in the staffing business. I grew up in staffing, and I grew the company from nothing to about we were doing 10 to 15 million in sales for the better part of a decade.
Right.
And I didn't love that business. It wasn't something that I liked. I liked the tools. I like building the tools, building the automations, making us more efficient, and I want to do that for other people. So that's how I got into it.
Got it. And what led to building, Bigley Sales once you got an exit?
So all of the benefits that I found for the last business were based on automation. That we had kind of an old school process of doing things. We'd pick up the phone, we would call people. Sales reps would have 150, 200 calls a day that they needed to do. They want to connect with 10 to 15 people every day, from those phone calls. And, we would measure everything, and then do a relationship-based model. But for all the outreach where we could automate things, we were able to automate our whole recruiting process off of email, where we could take a database of 2 million people. I could click a button. I could sort that down to, 100 people that were a good fit for whatever we were looking for. And I could click one button, and then we could message those 100 people in, a couple of seconds. So we would be able to take the entire front end of the recruiting process that other people might spend days or weeks on and get that down to 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and reach all of the people that we actually wanted to reach using those automations that we had built out. So that was the initial thing that I saw that really moved the needle for my business.
Right.
And I said, hey, there isn't anything out here really like this at the moment for other companies. So with Bigley, I took a CRM, and I said, with the CRM, no one wants to put their data in. And because salespeople hate putting data into the CRM, what you get is a lot of garbage data. You get either notes that are one word, client wasn't interested. Right. You get all this, junk. Nothing from your phone ever makes it in, right? If they call your cell phone, that doesn't make it in. If they text, that doesn't make it in. Emails used to not make it in. Now they make it in. If you're using something like Salesforce or HubSpot, you probably get them into the system, or Keep, or one of those. But none of that stuff made it into the system. Right. So the initial idea was to set up a CRM that integrated your phone, your text, your email. Everything is now saved in one place. If that rep walks out the door and leaves, you still have all of the data. You're not trying to go through someone else's old email to see if there's a sales contract from 2 years ago in the guy's email who left, in 2023. It just fixed all those problems. And then we tried selling that to small businesses, and small businesses really didn't want or need that product. No, I thought they did, right? I developed it because I thought they did. But all the people who were using our product, they just wanted to use our mass communication tools, the ability to do a text blast or an email blast or to power dial, with text being the one that really kind of stood apart.
Got it. You made a couple of interesting points. One is like, when you look at outreach, especially in 2023 and 24, I seen a personalized message or calls to at least 50 to 70 outreach a day works. But you mentioned like doing 150 to 200 outreach a day with, having those touch points of 15 speaking to 15 clients?
I was a dinosaur. We're using an old sales process. I would recommend to everyone today. I think cold is dead. I think
Hmm.
cold outreach is dead. Now, I know a lot of guys on this podcast are gonna say that's garbage, right?
Yeah.
Like, how dare you say cold outreach is dead? I did a cold email yesterday and it worked.
Yeah.
But what you can do today with Google and Facebook and
Yeah.
those types of companies is you can craft a message that makes the world come to you. And their AI is so ridiculously good at places like Facebook and TikTok that they'll see people clicking on your competitors' ads. And if they know you're in the same industry, they'll send that
Yeah.
traffic to you as well. They'll put your ads in front of those people. So if there's 1,000 of you advertising out there that are in the same industry, they'll see who's clicking on all those ads, and they'll start showing your ads to those 1,000 people because they want more clicks. Their AI is just unbelievable, and it's far better than you can ever do with cold outreach. So depending on the medium, we're getting in leads from about $10 to about $50 right now. And we're getting them in droves. And if you're hiring people to do sales for you, if you're paying a sales rep 40 or 50 grand, you're talking $1,000 a week. Are they going to have, right, even at the most expensive, are they going to have 20 interested prospects at the end of that week who've given you their information and say, I'm interested in booking a meeting with you, right? Are they going to have 50 or 100 interested prospects at the end of that week for that same $1,000? And I don't think there's anyone on this call who can say yes. I don't think there's anyone who's listening who can say yes, that's the case. We're getting that sort of outreach cold. So you have to redo your sales process. You have to start building it around these tools. And not to mention with the new TCPA requirements, they're basically going to outlaw cold calling. If it's business to consumer, you're not going to be able to do it. If it's B2B, you still can, if you can get the person on a landline at their office. But if you're calling their cell phone, well,
Yeah.
now the TCPA comes into play again. You're calling a guy's cell phone. You call it twice, you're in violation.
Hmm. And
Send a
and
text and a call, you're in violation. So
yeah. Yeah. No, interesting. And do you think the job role of SDR would be dead in next couple of years? Because you're already seeing a lot of AAs are already booking the calls, but where do you see the
well,
SDR function going?
Well, let me tell you what we did. We actually built out, we saw people using our platform and how they were using it. And there was a lot of issues. There was a lot of people, in places like Pakistan and the Philippines who were writing messages in broken English.
Yeah.
There was people who would send out a bunch of messages and then they wouldn't respond for days or weeks or ever,
Right.
to the people who got back to them. I mean, there was all sorts of communication issues that we saw people were having. And the AI fixes everything. So we built an AI call center
Right.
that it can do both texts and calls. And you can literally call a phone number and it can do qualification, it can do intake, it can do scheduling. We can configure it however you want with a person, that sounds like a real person using natural language, meaning they talk like you and I.
Mm.
And they can ask questions in natural language. They can understand the answers to those questions. They can do the form fills. So what I see is the entire role going away for that, right? There isn't going to be that front end appointment setter anymore. There isn't going to be that person who works up the leads anymore. All of that is going to be performed by the AI. And right now, it's cheaper than India. It's cheaper than Pakistan. It's cheaper than the Philippines. That price point's going to keep dropping as these large language models keep getting better.
Mm.
The price point's going to keep dropping. So right now we're using OpenAI and Claude, but we'll probably move to Mistral model or Llama or something like that over the next year as those move up and can now work as effectively as Claude or OpenAI and do it at a price point that is significantly less. So the price point is going to just keep dropping for the LLMs. It's going to keep getting cheaper, and the quality is going to keep going up.
Mm.
So that role's dead. I mean, that job is gone. I can take it a step further. Anything you're doing on a computer, if you're moving data from one system to another, if you're filling out forms, if you're, dealing with a computer for information or language, that's going to be replaced by LLMs, within the next couple of years.
Right.
All
Got
of
it.
those jobs are gone.
Got it. And you made another interesting point about integrating your phone calls and text and all. I understand. How do you integrate emails? Because I use HubSpot and Salesforce, but how do you integrate all the other communication channels so that the client knows what are the sales guy doing?
So we're setting this up in a TCPA compliant way.
Right.
So we're not going to just have the AI reach out. And let me explain why.
Right.
Let's say there's 100 different companies using this AI. It used to be that you'd have to hire an army of sales reps, and these reps would have to be somewhat efficient because you have to pay them a lot of money. So if I hire 100 sales reps, well, I'm paying those guys, 50 grand each. That's $5 million.
Yeah.
Right. If I want to scale up and I want to double it, that's another $5 million. And a lot of these guys aren't very effective on day one. They need training. They stink when they get on the phones for the first time. That's just the nature of the beast. So with the AI, well, you say, okay, we want to do 100 calls today. No problem. Then you say, wow, those calls work pretty well. Let's make it 1,000 calls today.
Hmm.
Great. And then the next day you say, well, that worked pretty well. Let's do 100,000 calls.
Hmm.
And the next day you say, that worked pretty well. Let's do 1,000,000 calls. All right.
Oh.
Let's do 10 million. Let's do 100 million. Right. There's no cap on how many calls you can do. It's just whatever the telecom bill is that you can handle. But if you're closing any of that business, it's pretty easy to say, as long as you're in the black on what you're doing for that day, for whatever you're selling, you can scale it up as much as you want. So could you imagine if there was 1,000 companies making 100 million calls a day? Your phone would just be ringing off the hook nonstop
Yeah.
all day with spam.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're not going to allow that. The regulators have already said, hey, you need to follow the rules. They have the Telephone Consumer Protection Act in the United States, the TCPA, and you can do an AI call, but it's got to be an opt-in call. It's got to be someone who wants to hear from you, who's expecting to hear from you, who has filled out a form for you to be able to perform that call. So we're following that call process where, let's say you have a lead that comes in from Google or Facebook. Either they fill out that form, we get that lead form. The AI will then send them a text and say, hey, we're going to call you here in a minute. So they know and are expecting a call from us, and they pick up the phone call when they get it. That'll increase the response rate, 30, 40, 50% just by sending that text on the front end. And then we'll have the AI call them and be able to go through any of the qualification or intake questions that we want. Are you a smoker? Are you over the age of 65? Is your household income under $50,000 a year? Whatever it might be. Are you the homeowner? Right? Whatever question our clients want to get asked, we can ask. We can qualify that person, and then if they qualify, we can go through the entire intake process with that, and then we can either transfer to a live agent for something like insurance, health insurance, life insurance, whatever. We can book an appointment, field service. We're doing home services, right? We're doing roofs, we're doing bathrooms, we're doing kitchens, we're doing whatever. Pest control. You can schedule an appointment for the next day, automatically send the guy out there to the property. Really, whatever that use case is, send an invoice, send a contract. We can do that live using the AI. So all those call center jobs are gone. They're not gone yet.
Yeah.
I don't think it's 5 years. I think we're talking 2 to 3. And then every company that has, 10 or 20 agents or more is going to have switched over to something like this already.
Correct. And what happens to all the call centers in India? I think India, Philippines, would they need to look at some sort of other business model, or are they already evaluating those sort of business models?
I don't know the answer to that question. I know they're not going to exist the same way they do today.
Right.
Now, a lot of those might do non-TCPA compliant calls, right? We're going to have to toe the letter of the law with how things are set up. So they might do things in a non-TCPA compliant way, but you're going to have trouble accessing the US phone line soon. they're trying to clean up the phones, right? So right now, if you start sending texts that are unsolicited, you'll have your phone number blocked in short order. You need to register your phone now, with 10DLC. I can tell you the KYC process I had to go through. It's been months trying to get approved to deal with people in India to have them call the US for using our phone lines. I mean, the KYC process has been absolutely brutal. And a couple of years ago, it was, either it didn't exist or it was like fill out this one pager, and you're done.
Yeah.
So they're really tightening this up. They're getting serious about protecting the consumer, and they need to, because AI, again, otherwise you could do 1 trillion calls a day. And
Yeah, true. And especially, this was sales guys who looking to move from, say from SMBs to mid market to enterprise. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you've seen in your career where, startups make when they're scaling into enterprise?
so I've always dealt with big companies. I made the mistake going the other direction.
Okay.
That I thought it was going to be easier dealing with a lot of these mom and pops to get them on board. And it's their business and they care about it greatly. And, nickels are like hubcaps to these guys. I mean, they're, trying to get one of these people to open up their wallet, even if it's $25, they're hesitant with dealing with the very small businesses out there. So I like those middle of the road businesses a little better. Once you start getting a little too big, once you start talking about the Walmarts and those places, they beat the crap out of their vendors. It's really hard to make an economic profit dealing with an IBM or a Walmart or someone like that. Like I can tell you with my staffing company, we were trying to get set up with IBM, and they said, yeah, we can get set up with you. You have to go through an intermediary, a vendor on premise that we were using. And we have all your guys, they have to be here on a W-2 basis. When it was all said and done, we were going to be at like a 17 or 18% markup on W-2 that we could do with them. And our break even was at about 18%. So we could do 100 million in business with them and say, wow, we did 100 million in business, and lose a little bit of money on it, lose a couple of $1 million, which isn't to me an ideal business model. So I really like, this might be different in software because we're doing something that, there really aren't many other companies out there doing yet, right? And it's us and a handful of competitors. And, most of the competitors I know, they're either not using natural language, like the AIs of the world don't have a natural language system. They have an IVR technology, Boom has IVR technology. A couple of the other ones have IVR technology. Some of them just do texts. Some of them do phone calls. I haven't seen really anyone who does both the texts and the phone calls and is using natural language but us. I'm not saying they don't exist, but if you have a relatively unique product, maybe you have some pricing power with the bigger companies. When you are, a staffing company or trying to get your stuff on the stores of one of those big retailers, I mean, they just crush your margins. They crush you down to zero or approximately zero, a little below, a little above. Where it's hard to make what I would call an economic profit.
Right. And especially, you would have handled a lot of sales teams. So how should sales team use discounting in enterprise sales effectively?
So what I'm doing is, let me just say what I'm doing, because what we're doing is we're setting minimums.
Right.
We don't want to go through an implementation process for, no money. So we're setting a $5,000 monthly minimum for our clients to get this set up. We want to make sure that there is a reasonable amount of usage. And then we are also doing an implementation fee to, just make sure that we're not spinning our wheels or wasting time on a client that is going to generate no revenue for us, or again, approximately no revenue, $100 a year, $200 a year, whatever it is, that we don't want to spend a lot of time on someone very small. I don't like the discounting. I think that we can discount based on volume. That's what we're going to do. I would go the other direction. If you're doing discounts, I would make sure you're getting a longer contract, that we're going to discount based on volume and term, that you're going to discount based on, them signing up for the next 2 years, them signing up for the next 3 years. If they sign up for a 3-year contract, you'll give them a 30% discount. If they sign up for a 2-year contract, you'll give them a 20% discount. Something along those lines where you're getting something for it. You're not just giving things away. If your product isn't good enough, if someone else really has a better product and yours isn't good enough, they're not going to buy from you anyway.
Yeah.
So you don't want to just allow them to threaten that they might go with someone else and have you negotiate against yourself. So I'm not a big fan of discounted in general, unless you're getting something for it, like a longer term contract.
Got it.
I know that was kind of a long-winded answer, but
Yeah, no, and I totally agree with you, because it's only if you get a longer contract is when you should look at giving a discount. But that's an interesting take. But I've seen a lot of AI tools, especially when you get on a Zoom call or a Google Meet, like Read.ai, or you got Firefly and all that. How do you think AI is going to make changes to sales processes? Especially, I can understand, like, for an SDR role, you using AI to book those meetings, but how is it trying to streamline and make it more efficient for enterprise sales account executives?
I mean, I see it just changing everything. I just see it changing literally everything that happens. So if we go through a sales process, if you're doing something like SEO,
Yeah,
right now you can make virtually an unlimited amount of articles.
yeah.
So my SEO guys are putting out 500-600 articles a month right now.
Oh,
So we're going to be all over Google, and then we have someone edit it, so it's not just all AI generated content. It doesn't look like it's AI or feel like it's AI, because we actually have a human edit it after
right.
the fact, and then we put those things out there on the internet and start getting them ranked on Google. So the writing of any content that you're doing is going to be mostly taken over by AI. Any ads that we're doing, we're using a bunch of AI tools to put the ads together. We're using AI tools to take stuff like this podcast, break it down into a bunch of little clips, and be able to put that out on our social media. We're using, obviously, the AI for any leads that are coming in the door from those ads that we've created, from the SEO that we've created using AI, from the social media posts that we're doing, from the advertisements that we've then the ads that we've then created that are on places like Facebook. Most of that is used using AI tools to make those ads, or at least a large percentage of those ads. Even if we're doing something like stills, we're probably using a Midjourney or an equivalent product to go and actually create that stuff now. So there's one called Free Picks that we use as well, that we can, I think they actually charge us. It's kind of a deceptive name, but they have access to all the different AI tools for creating any image you can think of that you can now use for your marketing. And then when that lead comes in, the automation from the text is going to be done with AI. We're going to have the phone call being done with AI.
Yeah.
We're going to have the contract being sent with AI. We're going to have the invoice being sent with AI, a Stripe payment link being sent with AI. I mean, it's going to do everything. And any information that's moving around in an organization, where I know there's low-hanging fruit for most companies. So if you have a bunch of people in the back office doing some sort of manual process, some sort of credentialing, taking stuff from one computer system to another, taking sales orders that are coming in off of email and then putting them into a computer system. I know a bunch of companies that are using AI to do that. And they're saying every order takes us 20 minutes. We have a guy sitting here doing this work, and the AI can do it with less errors in, a few seconds.
Yeah.
Right. So, it's just going to transform everything. But to me, every single step of the sales process I just described is being transformed and changed by AI today. And this is 2024 stuff. This isn't pie in the sky in the future. This is all with technology that exists right now that, you know, a halfway decent software engineer can implement, or if you're feeling aggressive, you can just talk into ChatGPT or Claude or, you know, Grok or whatever, and ask it how to do this stuff, and it'll probably give you a pretty good answer.
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. Uh, what do you think? Which sectors would see the most impact? Because a couple of years back we thought construction work would get automated, but it looks like it's the work by creative writers and or design workers. Their work is getting most
Yeah, it's
impact.
amazing how that happened. It happened in the
Yeah,
opposite order everyone thought it was going to. We thought it was going to be more assembly line, and it turned
right.
out being the creative work that was easier to copy.
Yeah,
But I know that took me by surprise.
yeah.
Um, so who's going to be affected? Anywhere that they have a lot of these manual processes,
Mm,
anywhere that there's people remotely doing a lot of manual processes, that's just going to be taken over by the AI. So I can tell you a lot of the industries that we're dealing with, home service, health insurance, stuff like that, anywhere with a large call center is going to be affected dramatically. Anyone that's dealing with back office paperwork is going to be affected dramatically. You know, these hospitals, I see the AI doing the work of all the medical coders at the hospitals and taking over the entire billing, the insurance market, you know, the anything having to do with banking, all of that stuff is going to be an AI instead of a person,
yeah,
you know, going
correct.
forward. It's going to look at these things. Maybe they have, and it's not that all these jobs are going away. It's just you're going to need less people to do them.
Yes.
So I have a buddy who's corporate counsel at a Fortune 500, and he said that they had a meeting with a bunch of other Fortune 500 corporate counsels. They had a little conference,
Mm,
and one of them was saying, in 2022, we spent $3 million on outside counsel for legal questions. In 2023, we used LexisNexis's, you know, LLM, and that dropped to zero.
wow. Mm,
And every single guy in that room was thinking that they could do it the same way,
yeah.
right? That we don't really need outside counsel anymore for a lot of this stuff, that we can just have, you know, ChatGPT and, you know, LexisNexis kind of write it up.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and we don't need their outside expertise. We can literally just ask it for an answer and ask it to write a brief. And then I got to proofread it, which I can do
Mm,
as a lawyer. So you just need a lot less lawyers. It's going to be the same thing for accountants. And it's, you know, it's going to be the same thing for people in marketing. And it's going to be the same thing for sales reps. And it's going to be the same thing for creatives. And, you know, there's going to be a lot less of these jobs to go around.
right. I can understand that, there'll be less jobs, and I mean, there could be less need of people doing these sort of manual jobs. But where do you see, I mean, somebody who's listening to the podcast, they just, they graduated and they're looking to build a career. What skill sets would they need to add so that they are, you know, looking at optimizing their skill set in the next 10 years or so?
Rohit, that's simple. That's the easy question. They need to learn the AI tools. I would go and I would become an AI practitioner.
Yeah,
And whatever my chosen field is, if you know how to use these tools and the other guys in your office don't, and all of a sudden you can do 5 times the work that they can, you can do
yeah,
10 times the work that they can at a higher quality, because now the AI is going to be doing the grunt work, and you're going to say, hey, can you make that better? Hey, can you add this? Hey, can you do that? And then you're going to proofread it and change whatever you need to do. Um, you're going to end up dominating. If it's like, hey, we need a new logo, and you go to ChatGPT and you say, make me a logo that looks like this, and 5 minutes later you go back to your boss and you say, hey, I created these logos, what do you think? And he's like, oh my god, how could you do this so fast? This is amazing.
yeah.
You don't have to tell them that you used AI and it's something that my 8-year-old or my, you know, like probably my 5-year-old could do. I don't know if he's good
Mm,
enough at typing quite yet, but
mm,
you know, you're talking about something that a kid in grade school can do now.
yeah, yeah.
You know, that used to be something you'd hire out to a professional that you'd pay $500 or $1,000 or more.
Mm. Right.
A landing page, same thing. We have a CMS that we built. So we have a landing page builder where you can come up with any landing page. We're customizing it for people getting in leads. So you can drop a landing page that's going to be, a very modern looking landing page for a Google ad or Facebook ad or whatever you're running. But that job is basically gone. All those guys on Fiverr, talking about setting up Wix sites and stuff like that. You're just going to need less people. So I think the cream is going to kind of rise to the top there.
Yeah.
People who
Yeah.
really love that stuff, but it's you learn how to use those tools, and now you are the super effective one.
Right. Got it. And do you think you'll have more, if I'm not wrong, like Midjourney has, I think $100 million in revenue with, I think 10 or 20 people in the company. But do you think you'll see a lot of these companies like $1 billion valuation with just 20 or very lean team, like 20 or 30 people in the company?
100%, 100%. That's the way it's going. That you're going to set up the process and then you're going to scale it, and you don't need the physical infrastructure to scale anymore. So,
Yeah.
there, if you take a look at like real estate investment trusts,
Yeah.
forever you've been saying, I own a building, I need a handful of employees on staff, I'm going to outsource the cleaning, I'm going to outsource this, that, and the other thing, the trash pickup, I'm going to hire a maintenance company, and I'm going to own the building. And someone owns, $10 billion worth of real estate and they got 50 employees.
Yeah.
And that's not new. It's just instead of doing that, you're going to give it to the AI and you're going to do the same thing. We'll outsource this, we'll outsource this, we'll have the AI do this stuff. And, the businesses, there's going to be, every business is going to have less people
Right. Right. Got it.
in aggregate. There's going to be less employment. I hope I'm not saying things people don't want to hear, but you're going to need less employment at the businesses that we have today. The revenue per employee is going to go up for all the
Hmm.
businesses, because stuff that you used to hire people to do, now you can have a computer do for you, and it's going to keep improving over the next couple of years.
Hmm. Got it. And what are the advancement do you see for AI in the sales sector in next coming years?
I'm not sure. The big one is what I'm talking about, that I see bifurcation. So I see, especially B2C stuff, it's probably all going to be the AI, almost
Mm.
all the AI doing it. And then you're still going to need a licensed agent to come in at the end. You're going to need that last mile sort of delivery piece. You're going to
Right.
send it to that person, but you're just going to need a lot less of those folks. So that part is 100% clear. We're going to see more automation of everything, that more and more of that sales process is going to be automated. And the other piece that's going to happen is face to face is going to become a lot more valuable.
Mm.
So
Okay.
actually going and meeting people and going to have a steak dinner with them or something like that, that is absolutely going to go up in value, because people are going to say, hey, I really want some human connection. I want to know who I'm dealing with, especially B2B, larger transaction size. Like even today, the insurance companies, you take like a Lloyd's of London. Uh, Unless they know you for a couple of years, they're not going to do business with you. They're afraid of
Mm.
getting burned, right?
Mm.
So, company I sat on the board of, I remember we were talking to them for like 3 or 4 years before they gave us a quote,
Mm.
right, for the insurance policy, because they, they wanted to know who we were, right? They wanted to get comfortable with us. They wanted to get comfortable with our numbers. They wanted to make sure you weren't, trying to pull a fast one on them. So I see that human to human connection actually becoming more important now than it ever has been, because there is going to be so much technology doing stuff. You want to know who's the man behind the curtain.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. Especially, since COVID, I think uh remote work has gone up. But once you go into office, I think uh having a face-to-face interaction that has helped in closing deals as well. But here in the Europe, you have GDPR rules, and I want to understand, how can a regulation, especially when it comes to AI, would affect, sales strategies and the usage of AI would affect, or do you think those sort of regulations? I know Europe is big on regulations, but do you foresee that regulations impacting sales strategies using AI going forward?
Well, 100%. I mean, I'm not as familiar with the GDPR regulations as I am with the regulations in the US. I
Right.
know you need two-party consent for call recording in Europe, pretty much everywhere across Europe. In the US, it's certain states, it's not all of them. But
Right.
really, what I see is, we kind of covered this at the beginning. You're going to have to play by the rules.
Mm,
The governments are getting more heavy-handed. You could do whatever you wanted on the phone 5 years ago. You
mm,
could call whoever you wanted. You could
true.
text whoever you wanted. Now you need to register to send texts out. You literally have to register your business if you want to send texts. They'll block your numbers left and right. Um, they'll ban your whole account if they think you're doing things improperly. So they're really going to force people to follow the rules. And I know if we just set up the AI and say, hey, make 1 million calls today, and they're not opted in calls, one, we're going to get sued. Number two, we're probably going to get a class action against us.
Mm,
So we could be on the hook for hundreds of thousands or millions if we're doing things the wrong way.
mm,
So already what we're seeing in the US is you need the proper cookie policy on your website.
right.
Right now, there's a fun law in California. If you don't tell people that you're using something like Google Analytics or tracking software, that you're responsible for $5,000 every occurrence that you violate the policy. So if someone in the state of California looks at your website and you don't have the right cookie policy on there and you're using Google Analytics, which what company isn't using Google Analytics or the equivalent, or Clarity or Hotjar or whatever,
Yeah.
you're in violation, right? They're going to fine you. They have lawyers that are sending out hundreds of these legal letters every day on this, that, individuals who have a profit motive that are doing this.
Right.
Um, as far as the TCPA, you you need to have a certification on whatever lead that you have coming in. You don't want a Janaya certification or a trusted form certification or some sort of certification on that lead. Every big company is requiring this now if you're going to do business with them. That says that the person that you're calling, you have the permission to call them. And the way that the law is changing in 2025 is that you're physically going to have a copy of that certification before you make that phone call for it to be legal.
Well,
So, they're basically writing these requirements into law that you need to make sure that you have the proper permission to call someone, and they're going to make everything one-to-one as far as the regulation, that you have to say, I'm representing XYZ company, and this lead is going to XYZ company, and no one else can call it except for XYZ company, not even different divisions of XYZ.
mm, got it.
And that's going into effect next year. It's set to go into effect in February, I believe. um, so the regulation coming down the pike is really going to drive how everyone does business. And certainly in America, if the Biden administration comes back in, they're going to ratchet these things up. The trial lawyers are basically writing all these rules, and the consumers in general are very for these rules. They don't want a lot of spam calls and spam messages. So if we could ever get the politicians to abide by them, I think everyone would be happy. But um, you know, yeah, it's going to be. I mean, it's going to play a massive role in it. They're basically going to outlaw cold calling.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's
It
the thing is,
basically is outlawed. It's just they're going to really enforce it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's just that because, since COVID, what I've realized is you need the 20 or 30 touch points to to reach out. It's not only through cold email or cold call or LinkedIn. You have these different touch points. So if it is difficult to do cold calling, it just reduces another communication channel. Obviously, we'll have something else coming up, like a WhatsApp or I don't know what else, but it becomes difficult for a sales guys to or somebody in or a founder to reach out and
You
get
need
a.
to start looking at advertising. It's how are you going to advertise? You
Hmm,
know, I really think cold outreach is kind of dead. Again, I said it earlier on, on our call here.
yeah.
We're getting leads in $10 to $50,
Hmm,
depending on the medium that we're using to get these in the door.
hmm,
Um, your ads probably aren't any good if they're not working for you. Either your
hmm,
messaging is bad or your ad is bad. Um, it's not that advertising doesn't work, it's that you're not good at it yet. Is if these things are failing. I know it took us a long time to get reasonably good at it. For the first 6 months we were running ads, they did almost nothing. But the beautiful part about it is you can start at 10 or 20 bucks a day,
right. Hmm,
and much cheaper than hiring someone, and you can keep iterating until you get good. My tip for any video ads, anything you're doing on TikTok or Facebook or anything like that, is most important part of the ad is the first 2 or 3 seconds. That you want to
hmm,
look at your 3-second viewership rate, because if you've lost them in the first 3 seconds, anything else you say after that doesn't matter.
hmm,
So you really need to grab someone's attention in the first couple of seconds of the ad, and then you want to hold them on there until they watch the whole thing.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it has to be as visually engaging as the other stuff that they're looking at, or their ad just does this and it's gone. Just you swipe your finger up
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the ad has disappeared.
Mm, got it. Yeah, I think a lot of interesting changes are going to come in the next coming years. I quickly want to do the top three. What's your favorite business book?
This is a great question. I'm going to go with the lean startup, because
Hmm,
it's just a totally different way of running your business using tests to do things, that rather than say, I know everything and I'm going to map out our plan for how we're building the software product for the next year, or how we're building our advertising, you know, uh, strategy for the next year. You're going to test and you're going to see what works. You're going to see what messaging works, and then you're going to use that messaging and you're going to tweak and test all the time. So I really like that methodology of doing things.
got it. Put that in show notes. And if you could go back in time when you started Bigley Sales, what is the one thing you would have focused on or done thing differently?
I would have focused on larger enterprises right from the gate. That I think my biggest mistake is I was going after some of these smaller businesses, and what we figured out was that if you're talking to 1 and 2 man shops, they have no money,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So if you have to do a phone call with them and you have to spend a lot of time on someone that you can get $10 or $20 of revenue a month, it doesn't really make sense for a sustainable business model. There's also a lot of churn with those small businesses, and I was doing everything as a usage-based model.
Hmm.
You can do usage, but you need a minimum, right?
Hmm.
You need to make sure that there's some minimum if you're doing a usage-based model. Um, so those would be my big ones.
Got it. And do you have any favorite online tool, for example, Gmail, Slack, Zoom?
Yeah, probably my favorite one right now is Ahrefs. I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
Yeah.
Ahrefs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I
and
know.
that's how we're measuring all of our SEO.
Okay.
Clarity is another great one. So every time someone comes to our website or landing page, we can actually view what they're doing. I can immediately tell if they came from a computer or if they came from a mobile device, and I can see where they moved on the screen, what they clicked on, have a screen recording of everything they do, and get all my stats from there as well. So those are probably my two favorite for just kind of monitoring my business and seeing what's going on.
Got it. We'll put that in the show notes. And
And of course, you got to use Claude and ChatGPT. Like,
yeah.
if you haven't been doing this, especially next time you have a technical problem on your computer, don't call technical support. right? You can turn it off and turn it back on, but there's something that you need to do that you don't know how to do. Just go to ChatGPT and put it in there. And what you're going to find is like magic. It knows everything on your computer and how to do everything on Earth.
Yeah.
Anything technical, you don't need to go to Stack Overflow. You don't need to Google it. You don't need to look for YouTube videos. You just ask ChatGPT and it's going to give you the right answer 99 times out of 100.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy that how many guests have said the favorite tool is ChatGPT over YouTube and Google in the last year or so. Um, I thought nobody could disrupt Google, but let's see. I don't know what's going to happen to them in next next coming years. But for now they're fine. But it's ChatGPT is something which most people should use and they should learn about it.
Yeah, I like Claude better. And if you want it fast, there's one called Grok
Grok, yeah,
that is just lightning,
yeah,
lightning fast. They're doing something like 300 to 500 tokens per second.
yeah. That's what Elon runs, right? That's Grok with a K.
There's a different Grok. There's a Grok with
Oh,
a Q. There's Elon's one as well. I haven't played around with that one very much. I'm
yeah.
really excited about the expanding context window because I think a lot of the stuff programmers have been doing, now that you have a million token context window, can the AI actually write the code entirely in there? So I'm excited to see Devin and how that works. Um, but I think the other job that is probably at risk
Yeah.
is the developer role. That
Yeah.
developer role that the AI is going to start being able to do the role of a software engineer, at least a junior software engineer, relatively
Mm.
shortly. And most of the software engineers I know, I have a bunch of them on staff. They're using it. If it's something they don't like create a button for me.
Mm.
Right. Look up this thing that I don't know how to do, or how do I do the syntax in this language, or that they'll ask it and it will be able to really speed up what they're doing. Right.
Mm.
Because one of the guys I know is a great backend developer, a great backend engineer. Um, he's not good at front end designs. He's like, I could sit there and work on a button for 3 hours, and you go to ChatGPT and you say, make me a button. I want it to be green. I want the corners to be round, and it should be 3 inches long, and it should be an inch high, and you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
done.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think let's see, what happens in the next, 5 or 10 years. It's definitely exciting times. Thomas, what is the best way people can reach out to you and know more about Bigley Sales?
So go to bigleysales.com. If you want to call the AI call center, you can call the number that's on there and you can play around with it. You can see how it works.
Nice.
But yeah, that would be my recommendation. Go to bigleysales.com and reach on out.
Got it. We'll put that in the show notes. Thomas, thank you so much for taking the time and speaking to us. I really enjoyed my conversation with you.
Rohit, thank you so much for having me. I appreciated the time with you. It was great.